became clear very quickly that Young Dolph was going to be a star. And so Gotti waged war with him through music.
Of all of this, again, Hernandez Goven, who's facing charges for first-degree murder, conspiracy, and attempted first-degree murder in connection to the shooting death of Memphis rapper Young Dolph in November of 2021.
Nearly 4 years since Young Dolph's tragic ending, a bombshell courtroom moment has brought the case roaring back into the spotlight. The biggest question still hanging in the air? Where on earth is Yo Gotti?
Somebody, but at the same time, now he in hide mode because he can't even push that agenda. No, he can't sell no music. He can't sell himself.
He don't want to be.
Hernandez Goven, accused of being the mastermind behind the hit, has had his trial delayed over and over, shaking the streets of Memphis and rattling the entire hip-hop scene. And after some major new developments in court and the shocking homicide of Yo Gotti's own brother, Big Jook, Gotti's been ghosting the public. No charges have touched him, but the eerie silence, it's got everyone talking. Now both the courtroom and the internet are lit up with one thing in mind. Chapter 1, where is Yo Gotti? As the trial heats up, Gotti has gone completely quiet. No statements, no sightings, nothing. Meanwhile, during pre-trial hearings, Hernandez Goven stood before the Memphis judge and dropped some serious heat. While he never said Gotti's name directly, he made weird, vague comments about outside convos and big money moves that had fans spiraling into full-blown conspiracy mode. And just like that, the internet exploded with one question: where's Yo Gotti hiding? Days turned to weeks, and fans started connecting the dots. The CMG boss suddenly dipped from the scene. He skipped major events, ducked out of interviews, and didn't even show face for promos involving his biggest artist, Moneybagg Yo. People noticed fast. Gotti, who's usually flooding Instagram with flashy reels, luxury flexes, and CMG victories, went completely dark. No updates, no stories, no fresh posts, not even a mention in the press. For a guy who never misses a chance to show off his empire, this silence, it's straight up suspicious. Yo Gotti's last post, still sitting untouched, while the comments section turns into a battle zone. Fans flooded it with wild theories and straight up demands for the truth. YouTubers, hip-hop bloggers, and Reddit sleuths pounced fast, breaking down every second of Hernandez Goven's courtroom statements like it was a Netflix true crime series. Hashtags like, where is Yo Gotti, Subras, CMG silence, and Young Dolph trial started trending in fan spaces from Memphis to Atlanta. Basically anywhere CMG has pull. Even Gotti's inner circle started acting weirdly quiet. His right-hand man and CMG's co-manager, usually out front when it's album season, went radio silent. And Black Youngster, the king of wild energy online, didn't post a thing. No jokes, no reactions, nothing. That's not just a coincidence, that's a pattern. But here's the real catch. This whole situation ain't just about paperwork or legal charges. It's about a weird silence in the heart of Southern hip-hop. Especially during a moment this hot, silence ain't always just staying low. It can be a statement. Some folks think Gotti's laying low for safety. Others think something big is coming. Just so it's clear, Yo Gotti hasn't been charged, hasn't been named a suspect, and his name ain't in any court documents tied to Young Dolph's ending. But let's be honest, optics matter. This is the same man who once shouted, "I am Memphis," and built a whole empire off always being in control. Now, crickets. And in a world where disappearing makes more noise than speaking up, that silence is loud. Blogs can't stop talking. Fan theories keep stacking. And in the public's eyes, Gotti's ghost mode has become a headline all on its own.
I was originally set to start on March 10th. It has now been pushed back to July of 2025.
Chapter 2, Hernandez Goven's past and the charges. Before his name went nationwide, Hernandez Goven was just another Memphis name with street ties. But to law enforcement, he'd been on their radar for years. A Memphis native through and through, Goven wasn't originally seen as the main player in the homicide of Young Dolph. But things changed, fast. Everything flipped in late 2022 when prosecutors pulled the curtain back on a way deeper investigation than anyone expected. In November of that year, Hernandez Goven was hit hard, indicted by a grand jury on 3 heavyweight charges: first-degree homicide, attempted first-degree homicide, and conspiracy to commit first-degree assassination. According to Shelby County DA Steve Mulroy, Goven wasn't just involved. He was the one calling the shots in the ending of Young Dolph. The assassinating went down on November 17, 2021, right outside Makita's homemade cookies in South Memphis, a spot Dolph was known to visit often. Prosecutors claim Goven didn't pull the trigger himself, but he was allegedly the one who orchestrated the whole thing. Court filings suggest he played a behind-the-scenes role, setting up the play, arranging the moves, and handing out orders that led to the deadly ambush. And here's what really shook people. Goven's indictment came almost a full year after Dolph's assassination. That delay showed just how tangled this whole case really was. Investigators had to dig through layers of connections and shadowy moves just to reach this point. Now check this. Hernandez Goven wasn't just a name from the streets. In Memphis, people also knew him as the father of LA Cash Desto, a rising female rapper who was tight with Lil Uzi Vert. But in a tragic twist, Destiny Desto Goven was shot and ended in Houston, Texas in September 2022, just weeks before her dad's indictment. While Houston police haven't linked her assassinating to the Dolph case, the timing was way too close for people not to start asking questions. Online chatter exploded with theories. Some folks swear the two tragedies are connected, but so far, no official sources have confirmed any direct link between the two deadly events. Yet, public records revealed something major. Law enforcement had been watching Hernandez Goven for months before they finally made their move.
43-year-old Hernandez Goven, who was just indicted in the rap star slaying, along with Johnson and Cornelius Smith, once lived just a few houses down.
During pre-trial hearings, prosecutors dropped the bomb that they've got cell phone pings, text messages, and even recorded convos as key pieces of evidence. The full wiretap files haven't been released yet, but the state claims those communications connect Goven directly to the people involved in plotting the hit on Young Dolph. Goven's sticking to his story. He's pleaded not guilty to all 3 charges and is still waiting on his trial. But what really set the city off? He got out on $90,000 bond early in 2023. That move triggered outrage from Dolph supporters and shook folks across Memphis. Still, the bond came with tight restrictions, GPS ankle monitor, and limits on how much he could show face in public. Inside the courtroom, Goven's lawyers have kept pushing the same angle. There's no physical evidence that ties him to the scene of the crime, and no proof he gave the final green light. But prosecutors aren't backing down. They continue to paint Goven as the man behind the curtain, the puppet master, calling shots from the shadows and lining up the pieces that led to Dolph's execution. Right now, the full case file is still sealed. Nobody outside the courtroom has seen all the receipts. But from what's been revealed in court motions and select media coverage, the streets can't stop talking. And Goven's name is right at the center of a slaying case that's still shaking the entire hip-hop game from Memphis to beyond. Chapter 3, Courtroom Chaos. What Hernandez Goven really said. When Goven showed up for one of his first major hearings, folks expected a standard court day. You know, plea entries, basic motions, maybe a few arguments over bail. But what actually went down had the whole courtroom shook and got the internet buzzing again. During his early 2023 bond hearing, Goven and his legal team pushed hard for a bond reduction, and that's when things started getting real messy. Govan's legal team tried to play it smooth, pointing out that he turned himself in and had kept a clean record while out on pretrial. But what really lit a fire online? A cryptic comment he reportedly dropped right there in open court. According to folks inside the courtroom and legal bloggers following the case, Goven hinted that other powerful people were involved behind the scenes of the Young Dolph ending. He didn't call out any names, but the way he said it, that was enough to send social media into a full-on frenzy. That vague phrase, others with influence, blew up across YouTube, Reddit threads, and reaction videos. Everybody had their own theory, and suddenly, that one line became the most dissected moment of the hearing. Back in the courtroom, Govan's lawyers tried to flip the focus. They highlighted his cooperation with the law, the emotional toll of losing his daughter, rapper Lotta Cash Desto, who was ended in Houston just weeks before his indictment, and insisted he wasn't a flight risk. They urged the court to show compassion, painting Goven as a grieving father, not a danger to the streets. But the Shelby County DA's office wasn't having it. Prosecutors, led by Steve Mulroy, fired back hard. They pointed to sealed evidence and warned the judge that letting Goven walk could put witnesses in danger and mess with the investigation. And here's where it gets even deeper. Media outlets reported that federal agencies were also watching parts of this case, hinting that what's been made public is only the tip of the iceberg. In open court, the prosecution warned that more people could still be charged, though they didn't name names or spill details. But that alone was enough to spark even more questions. Goven, they argued, could use his influence to reach others tied to the alleged conspiracy and derail ongoing probes. At first, the judge wasn't convinced. He denied Goven's bond request, citing the weight of the charges and the risks involved. But despite all that heat, the bond was eventually granted. And that decision sparked even more backlash in Memphis and beyond. In the court of public opinion, Hernandez Goven's vague courtroom comments took on a whole life of their own. One short, mysterious line, others with influence, sparked a wildfire of speculation. Some fans are convinced he was hinting at a deeper, darker conspiracy. Others believe he was indirectly pointing towards some big names in Memphis's rap scene that could still come to light. Now let's be clear. Goven didn't drop any names. No Yo Gotti, no CMG members.
Indictment coming less than 2 months after Goven's daughter, 25-year-old Destiny Goven, an up-and-coming rapper by the name of Lotta Cash Desto, was fatally shot in Houston.
And up to this point, no official links have been made between his words and any high-profile figures. The court hasn't released a full transcript of that moment, and Goven's team hasn't offered any follow-up either. But the internet, it ran wild with it. What might have been a simple legal tactic exploded into a digital obsession. Goven's courtroom appearance wasn't just another hearing. It cracked open a floodgate of rumors and underground theories. And since prosecutors haven't fully confirmed or denied anything, the silence has only added more fuel. Chapter 4, CMG Under Fire. The internet connects the dots. CMG, collective music group, founded by Memphis rap powerhouse Yo Gotti, has been a major force in Southern hip-hop for years. With a stacked roster that includes Moneybagg Yo, 42 Dugg, ESTG, Glorilla, and Black Youngsta, CMG built its empire off raw street energy and mainstream wins. But ever since Young Dolph's homicide in 2021, CMG has been sitting in the eye of an online storm. Let's get this straight. There's no evidence and no legal documents tying CMG to the case. But that hasn't stopped the internet from going full detective mode. Hip-hop blogs, YouTubers, Twitter threads, and Reddit sleuths have been connecting dots. Some rooted in old beefs, others just pure speculation. At the center of it all, that years-long tension between Young Dolph and Yo Gotti. Their feud goes way back and reportedly escalated when Gotti tried to sign Dolph to CMG, and Dolph publicly turned him down. From that moment on, things only got uglier. In 2017, the beef reached a whole new level when Dolph's bulletproof SUV was sprayed with over 100 rounds in Charlotte, North Carolina. According to local news and Charlotte-Mecklenburg police, Yo Gotti was briefly named a person of interest. Not because of evidence, but because their beef was so well known. He was quickly cleared, and no charges were ever filed. But Black Youngsta, one of CMG's wildest signees, was arrested in connection with that same shooting. Even though that case eventually cooled down, it left a stain, and fans haven't forgotten. So when Goven made that cryptic comment in court years later, the internet instantly tied it back to old wounds, old enemies, and the still unsolved layers around Dolph's silence. Black Youngsta may have dodged prison time after catching multiple felony charges, but by 2019, everything got dropped due to lack of evidence. While the legal system moved on, the internet never let it go. And after Hernandez Goven got indicted in 2022, YouTube and TikTok turned into straight-up investigation hubs. Bloggers were going deep. They started breaking down old IG lives, digging through old CMG lyrics, and matching up names from Goven's circle like it was a rap detective show. One viral YouTube clip even claimed Goven had past ties with people loosely connected to CMG, though no official agency ever confirmed that. Still, it was enough to get folks buzzing. Things really got wild when fans noticed something strange. People unfollowing each other, CMG members going unusually quiet, and even Gotti's close affiliates ducking the spotlight. For a label that's usually all over social media, stunting with plaques, private jets, and #1 hits, this sudden silence, it was loud. But here's the bottom line. So far, no court has ever linked CMG its leadership, or any of its artists to Young Dolph's ending. No subpoenas, no charges, no verified ties, nothing. Legally, CMG is clear. But in the court of public opinion, that's a whole different story. Fans are playing detective, building timelines from lyrics, old interviews, and digital patterns.
Hernandez Goven, one of the prime suspects in the rapper's death, is now out of jail on a $90,000 bond.
And was previously held without bond. Prosecutors and his defense came to an agreement to grant bond today with conditions.
Gotti's ghost mode silence hasn't helped either. It's only fueled the storyline. One viral commenter put it bluntly. I hate to say it, man, but somebody gotta ask. Somebody gotta go down. Whether any of these theories hold up in court remains to be seen, but the pressure on CMG is real. What started as a criminal case has morphed into something way bigger. A cultural moment where the lines between rap, reality, and reputation are being picked apart in real time. CMG isn't just a record label anymore. It's become the center of a conversation that goes way beyond music. Chapter 5. The day Young Dolph was assassinated. How it went down. November 17th, 2021. It was early afternoon when Young Dolph, real name Adolph Thornton Jr., pulled up to Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, a black-owned bakery in South Memphis he always supported. For Dolph, this spot wasn't just about grabbing a treat. It was home turf, a real symbol of love and loyalty to his city. He'd been there many times before, including just days before he was gunned down. That Wednesday was supposed to be just another quick stop for Young Dolph. But just minutes after he stepped inside Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, everything turned deadly. A white Mercedes-Benz pulled up right outside the shop, and what happened next was caught on camera. Two masked gunmen jumped out, heavily armed, faces covered, no hesitation. They opened fire through the glass storefront with automatic weapons, letting off dozens of rounds. It was fast, cold, and calculated, a straight-up ambush. Dolph was hit multiple times. Surveillance footage confirmed he never even pulled his weapon. He didn't get a chance to fight back. He died right there, inside the shop, just 36 years old. It was over in seconds. Memphis and the entire hip-hop world was shattered. This wasn't random. It wasn't a robbery. It was an execution in broad daylight. In the same neighborhood Dolph showed endless love to. A place where he gave back, where he supported local businesses, where he was supposed to feel safe. The sheer boldness of the hit shocked everyone, from the streets of Memphis to the global rap scene. Within hours, police released stills from the shop's security footage, showing two shooters in hoodies, masks, and armed with assault rifles. And then the manhunt began. Detectives didn't waste time, and neither did the internet. Bloggers and locals started breaking down every frame, zooming in on shoes, hoodies, even the car. That white Benz? It was later found dumped behind an abandoned house in South Memphis. But here's the twist. That same car had already been linked to a previous shooting in Covington, Tennessee. That discovery made it clear. This vehicle wasn't just used for one job. It was part of something bigger. Weeks later, the first arrest hit headlines. Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, a Memphis rapper with a criminal past. He was charged with first-degree homicide. Not long after, Cornelius Smith was also arrested and indicted for his role in the ambush. But the real shocker came months later, when Hernandez Goven was indicted. He wasn't one of the shooters. He wasn't even at the scene. But prosecutors say he's the one who made it all happen. According to Shelby County DA Steve Mulroy, Goven allegedly put the plan together, soliciting the assassinating and coordinating the hit behind the scenes. He was charged with first-degree homicide, attempted first-degree homicide, and conspiracy to commit first-degree homicide. And just like that, the case exploded into something way deeper than anyone expected. What started with two masked gunmen now pointed to a bigger operation. With Goven right at the top, this wasn't just some reckless street beef gone too far. A new layer in the case made it clear Young Dolph's silencing may have been part of a much bigger plan. With Hernandez Goven now in the picture, prosecutors began to push a narrative that this hit wasn't just carried out by a couple of shooters. It might have been the result of high-level coordination, with more players involved than anyone originally thought. Young Dolph's death went from a tragic local loss to national headlines. Not just because he was an independent rap icon and a community hero, but because of how calculated the hit was. This wasn't some random act of violence. It wasn't about the heat of the moment. This was structured, planned, intentional. And that raised some serious questions. Who else knew? And why was Dolph really targeted? Chapter 6. Trial twists, testimonies, witnesses, and a missing name. As the homicide trial unfolds inside a Memphis courtroom, one thing's clear. This case is anything but simple. It's been full of legal curveballs, shaky witnesses, and quiet, strategic courtroom moves that have kept everyone on edge. Several witnesses who were supposed to speak have suddenly changed their stories, refused to testify, or flat out pleaded the fifth. In one major twist, a key witness who was expected to talk about communication between the suspects reportedly had to be placed under protective custody. That bombshell, according to courtroom observers, only deepened the mystery and confusion surrounding the case's direction. Prosecutors are leaning hard on digital evidence, cell tower locations, text chains, and phone records to tie together Hernandez Goven, Justin Straight Drop Johnson, and Cornelius Smith in the days leading up to Dolph's ending. They're not just trying to show involvement, they want to prove this was premeditated, a plot carefully put in motion long before the shots were fired. But here's the twist that's got the public side-eyeing the courtroom. One name has been missing from all official testimony and filings: Yo Gotti. Despite the long, messy history between Gotti's camp and Young Dolph, diss tracks, shady interviews, and years of street whispers, Gotti's name has not come up in any direct way in court. Not in the testimony, not in the filings, nothing. And for fans watching closely, that silence speaks just as loud as any statement. While Gotti hasn't been linked legally, the court of public opinion isn't convinced the full story's out. The courtroom might be quiet on his name, but outside those walls, it's the loudest thing not being said. No charges have ever been filed against Yo Gotti, and his name hasn't popped up in any of the publicly available court transcripts. For some fans, that silence is enough to clear him. Proof that Gotti had nothing to do with Dolph's assassination and that all the internet noise has gone too far. But for others, that same silence feels a little too clean, almost strategic. Online commentary and YouTube breakdowns have taken the lack of mention as a possible red flag. Some suggest there could be sealed court documents or names being kept under wraps for legal reasons. That speculation reached new heights after a courtroom moment that made local reporters stop and take notice. During a pre-trial session, prosecutors suddenly asked for a sidebar, a private conversation with the judge, away from the jury and public. According to media in the room, the discussion involved sealed federal cooperation. The entire room went quiet for several minutes. Whatever was said, it wasn't for public ears. That silence sent online theories into overdrive, with many believing there's more behind the scenes than anyone's letting on. Then came a moment that really stirred the pot. In an earlier pre-trial hearing in 2023, a witness briefly named Big Jook, Yo Gotti's older brother, Anthony Mims. One of the accused reportedly claimed that Jook had placed a $100,000 hit on Young Dolph.
Expert testifying cell phone towers around Crosstown Concourse, where Johnson lived, the gas station where he picked up the stolen white Mercedes used in the murder, Makita's Cookies, where Young Dolph was killed, and the apartment where he went after the shooting, all showed his phone made contact with the cell phone towers around there.
The courtroom erupted, and just like that, the judge and prosecution immediately called another sidebar. The topic was never brought back up in open court. And just months later, in January 2024, everything got even darker. Big Jook was gunned down outside a Perignon restaurant in Memphis, just after attending a funeral. Authorities confirmed it was a targeted hit, but no suspects have been named, and police haven't shared a motive. The timing, way too close to the trial. And the fact that his name had just come up in court had social media going crazy. Was it just a coincidence? Revenge? A cover-up? Nobody knows for sure. But Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube lit up with questions and theories, drawing connections between the sealed court convos, the sudden silence in the courtroom, and Big Jook's shocking slaying. Now the streets are asking, was something bigger being hidden? Was Jook's death tied to what was whispered behind closed doors? The court won't say. The feds won't say. But fans, they're connecting every single dot, and they're not letting go. While law enforcement hasn't confirmed any connection between Big Jook's ending and the trial, the timing of everything has kept public curiosity burning hot. Inside the courtroom, things have reportedly grown tense, especially when questions start brushing up against potential wider networks or deeper affiliations. And whenever testimonies even hint at something bigger, the judge quickly reins it in. So far, there's been no formal evidence linking anyone beyond the 3 men already indicted: Hernandez Goven, Justin Straight Drop Johnson, and Cornelius Smith. But the presence of sealed federal files keeps people wondering, is this really the full story, or is more coming? The defense hasn't let up either. They continue to push back hard against the state's version of events, especially the claim that Goven was the mastermind behind the entire plot. Meanwhile, the public remains glued to every update, desperate for answers, but also aware that some parts of the truth might be buried behind redacted pages and sealed courtroom whispers. One courtroom observer said it best after a particularly intense session: sometimes the loudest part of a trial is the silence. And this trial, it's far from over. And so is the mystery surrounding Young Dolph's slaying. Chapter 7, The Streets Talk, Fans, Bloggers, and the Dangers of Speculation. Outside the courtroom, a whole different kind of trial is unfolding on live streams, in barbershops, and across every corner of the internet. Fans have turned into investigators, piecing together their own theories from IG clips, interviews, and song lyrics that now seem like confessions in disguise. Bloggers? They're deep in the trenches. Some even claim to have received cease and desist letters from legal teams tied to CMG. But that hasn't stopped the conversation, not for 1 second. The internet refuses to stay quiet. Was this all about a label rivalry gone way too far? Was Young Dolph's independence seen as a threat to the system? Or was it just long-standing local beef that spiraled out of control? Nobody truly knows. But one thing's for sure: Young Dolph is gone. A father, a rapper, a community figure, taken in broad daylight. His family's still fighting for justice, and what's happening in court is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Gotti's silence, Goven's cryptic words, and the internet's non-stop detective work have all collided in Memphis. And right now, that silence, it's louder than ever. If you've been locked in this deep, go ahead and drop a comment. We want to hear your take. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's following the case. We'll be back real soon with the next chapter. See you on the next one.